Hi there, football fans. This is Goalside, and welcome to another one of our videos. Petr Cech is one of the best goalkeepers in the history of the game. He won the Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup, basically conquering all competitions as Chelsea's #1 goalkeeper. However, nobody would ever guess what would have happened after Cech ended his footballing career. Chelsea's legend became a hockey goalkeeper. That's right. Even deep into his 40s, he's still playing at a semi-pro level, competing week in, week out, in a sport he's never played professionally in his life prior to. In this video, we'll explain everything about Cech's uprising and how it came to this change of profession so late in his career. Petr Cech started out in a country that doesn't even exist anymore, Czechoslovakia. You'll be shocked to hear that Cech started playing as a striker. That's right, one of the most famous goalkeepers of all time. Started out in a diametrically opposite position, playing in the center of the attack. However, the youngster broke his leg when he was 10, and then he decided to do the most logical thing, become a goalkeeper. Now, the thing is that Cech loved ice hockey just as much as he loved football. This is no coincidence because ice hockey is one of the most famous sports in Eastern Europe. And it's also no coincidence that KHL, the league formed from the countries of the former Soviet Union, is the second strongest league in Europe, just behind the NHL. However, it turned out that goalkeeping in football is his hidden talent because he instantly popped up as one of the best in his age category. This prompted Chmel Basani, his club at the time, to give him an opportunity to play in the starting 11 when Cech was just 17. It was a very rare feat at the time, especially in a position of such high responsibility as the goalkeeper. His debut didn't go too well, though, because Cech conceded 3 goals against Sparta. But everyone still knew that they were witnessing a star in the making. The same Sparta Prague that he debuted against signed him at the end of the season, although they opted to keep Cech at his current club until the end of the 2000-2001 season. His performances were off the charts, to say the least. At just 19 years old, he broke the record for the most consecutive minutes without conceding in the Czech First Division, with his stretch reaching 855 minutes before he finally capitalized against Bohemians in November of 2001. Those performances weren't just impressive in his home country, too, because the Premier League clubs took notice. At the time, Cech looked like the perfect goalkeeping prospect. He'd been playing senior First Division football since he was 17. He was 1.96 meters tall, and he had some amazing reflexes for a man of that size. All in all, it looked like he was a safe bet. And a safe bet it was, however, not for the Premier League clubs. The competition in England was so big at the time that everyone was looking to get a proven player in the top 5 leagues. This gave a chance to the French Rennes, who signed the tall goalkeeper in 2002 for a fee of $5.5 million. Definitely not a cheap business, which goes to show how highly Cech was rated. The big man impressed in France too, because he immediately attracted the attention of the top European clubs, especially with his performance against Paris Saint-Germain, who had Ronaldinho, amongst other stars, as Cech was man of the match. He spent another season at Rennes, but the rising power in Chelsea bought out his contract in February of 2004. He would join the London club at the beginning of the 2004-05 season. Now, to understand why Chelsea, out of all teams, wanted him the most, you need to dig under the surface. Chelsea's fringe owner was and remains to this day the Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich. He had a dream of making a global superpower out of Chelsea, and he appointed the world's best young manager at the time, Jose Mourinho. However, to add to the puzzle, he also wanted a touch of Eastern European presence, where Cech fit in perfectly with his plans. Cech was lucky too. The first-choice goalkeeper, Kudicini, suffered an injury at the start of the season, allowing the youngster to shine right from the get-go. He was a key factor in Jose Mourinho's defensive fortress. Cech set the record for minutes without conceding in his first season in the Premier League. He went 1,025 minutes without conceding, an unprecedented feat until that point, proving that his record from Czech First Division is all but coincidence because he's done it in the hardest competition in the world this time around. Chelsea wins the title, and the 22-year-old Petr Cech was at the heart of it, commanding his backline like he was an experienced veteran, not a rookie in the strongest league on the planet. The record of 15 conceded goals that season still stands unbeaten, and it will probably remain that way in the foreseeable future because even the powerhouses like Manchester City and Liverpool nowadays didn't get close to breaking it. Cech himself received an IFFHS award for the best goalkeeper in 2005, confirming his rise to stardom. The following season saw the Blues win another Premier League title, and once again, Cech was unstoppable with only 22 goals conceded throughout the whole season, putting fear in the opposition strikers with his height and reflexes, often forcing them to fumble potentially perfect opportunities. And then, in the 06-07 season, Cech suffered an injury that would go on and label his career in the history of football. The match against Reading had just started, and the opponents sent a long ball towards Cech's box. The big goalkeeper was having none of it, sliding and receiving into his big hands with authority. But Reading's forward Hunt had other plans. Even though he didn't have a chance to get to the ball, Hunt extended his leg, thus almost crushing Cech's head while running at full speed. Cech barely survived, according to Chelsea doctors, as he suffered a depressed skull fracture that would later go on and force some heavy headaches for the Czech goalie. Mourinho went all out protecting his goalkeeper, calling Hunt a disgrace. The Czech one, the challenge is a disgrace. I'm not sure if he's a Catholic, but to be alive is a bit lucky. I think it was that bad. A knee coming at Petr like that at such speed, the boy was even laughing afterwards. It was unbelievable, and players should respect each other more than that. It was such a bad injury that Cech himself cannot recall any of it, and he returned to action after 3 months of recovery, wearing a protective helmet that became his trademark as he never took it off on the pitch ever again. But to everybody's shock, Cech's performance didn't drop a bit. He kept a clean sheet for 810 minutes in 2007 after the return, even winning his first Premier League Player of the Month award, thus becoming the first goalkeeper in 7 years to receive such an honor. Chelsea won the FA Cup that season by beating Manchester United, where Cech's biggest rival, Edwin van der Sar, was the goalkeeper. Cech established himself as a cornerstone of a legendary Chelsea generation that featured him in goal. John Terry as the defensive anchor, Frank Lampard in the midfield, and Didier Drogba up front. This group won it all domestically, but they were lacking the biggest trophy of them all, the Champions League. It was a tragic way that they lost in the 2008 season too, with the Champions League final against Manchester United going into penalties. Petr Cech did his part of the job, and the club captain John Terry had a chance to win it all just by scoring his penalty. And then he slipped. It was a big hit to the team's morale as they lost afterwards, thus leaving their European dreams out of reach. Another big opportunity arose the next season, however, in 2009, when the Blues got all the way to the semis where they would face Barcelona. The Catalans were perhaps the strongest team in Europe that season, and the two-legged tie was filled with a questionable decision on both sides, but Chelsea ultimately had a 1-0 lead at Stamford Bridge after a goalless affair at Camp Nou, heading into the final minutes of the match. And then, Andres Iniesta struck. A stunning shot from 20 meters out left Cech with no chance to defend it whatsoever, thus ruining a perfect opportunity for Chelsea to get their first European title in history. It looked like the club's golden generation had reached its peak and that it could only go downward from there. The following season of relapse saw Cech receive Chelsea's Player of the Year award with a bitter taste in his mouth, as the club didn't win anything and the backbone of the team was aging. And then out of nowhere, it happened. Petr Cech commanded his team to the Champions League final against Bayern Munich. Didier Drogba scored in the last minutes to tie the match, and it went to penalties. Once they got there, the big Czech goalkeeper made sure to intimidate and defend, leaving the Bavarians with no chance as Chelsea won their first Champions League trophy, thus fulfilling theirs and the longtime dream of the club owner, Roman Abramovich. The summer of 2012 brought some more big matches for Cech, who led his country in the Euro, and they were doing great too. Czech Republic reached the quarterfinals where they dropped out to Portugal after Cristiano Ronaldo scored the crucial goal, sending his team to the semifinals and crushing the hearts of millions and millions of Czechs. Seasons went on and Cech wasn't declining in his performances, helping the team compete in all competitions year after year. However, once his old friend Jose Mourinho retired, he was sidelined in favor of the younger Thibaut Courtois. Like a real gentleman, Cech didn't make any noise or complaints, rather accepting his role. He decided to move to Arsenal in the 2015-16 season, sending out a public letter to all Chelsea fans. Last summer, things changed and I understood I was no longer the first-choice goalkeeper, but I felt it was not the right time for me to go. During the season, it became clear that my situation would not improve, and as I know I am not at the stage of my career where I want to be on the bench, I made my decision to move on and look for new challenges. He would spend his final footballing years in North London before finally retiring in 2019 after losing the Europa League final to his former club, Chelsea. And then, he shocked the world. Rather than retiring to fill an office role like most former legends, Cech decided to give it a go in ice hockey. Cech was a big fan of Dominik Hasek, so in his honor, he took the number 39 on his back. It was a 4th division club, Guildford Phoenix, but the competition was still hard for someone who'd never played ice hockey professionally. Not only that, but Cech won man of the match in his debut after he stopped 2 penalties in a shootout. He's a born competitor, a man who values hard work over everything else. Petr Cech is a model sportsman and a professional who will remain in the record books for his incredible contributions and saves to not only Chelsea, but to all of football itself.